Hey everybody, Brandon Niles here, host of the most accurate podcast, senior writer and editor over at 4for4.com. I recently did a video highlighting players with way too expensive ADPs for me, so I thought I'd get back to some positivity this week. Talk about players who are going too low, should be considered bargains at their current ADP. These are players I'm going to have a lot of on my rosters this year. As a reminder, before I get into this, if you like this video, please hit that like button, share, subscribe, tell your friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's how we grow the show, and it's how we have fun engaging and interacting with each and every one of you. As far as ADP is concerned, I'm taking a look at the Underdog Best Ball ADP we have at 4for4.com/underdog-ADP, trying to identify players to target based on their average draft position. So I found 6 players that I'm going to have a lot on my fantasy teams this year, especially in redraft format. So here are my 6 players. I'm going to start at the top. Najee Harris, ADP of 9.4. I know that's a first-round pick anyway, but, he's going as the RB5 right now, scored RB4 in half PPR last year, and I have him as my RB2. I'll take him right after Jonathan Taylor if I've got the number 2 pick. I don't have any problems banking on him. I understand that the Steelers' offensive line is still a mess, but he thrived last year, had a really good season. There's a narrative going on that checkdowns is the only reason and that Ben Roethlisberger doesn't have an arm, and that's why he got all those checkdowns. But, he had 74 catches on 94 targets. Those aren't crazy numbers that I think to myself can't be replicated with a new quarterback in kind of any offense. Like, we knew Najee Harris coming into the league was talented catching the ball out of the backfield. I don't think there's any reason to think that he's not going to continue to get a steady slew of targets, especially if Mitch Trubisky's at quarterback. Mitch Trubisky threw the ball to Tariq Cohen 91 times in 2018. Threw it to him 104 times in 2019. Mitch Trubisky knows how to check down. And I think that even if it's Kenny Pickett, the rookie out of Pittsburgh, I think that Kenny Pickett's going to be able to find the talent in Najee Harris and do just as many checkdowns. So I think his role in the passing game is going to continue to be huge. And I think that his talent running the ball makes him a separate entity compared to the rest of the running backs out there. We just don't see guys get 20-plus touches a game regularly anymore. Everything is a committee. This is one of the few guys who's not in a committee. I think talent is going to win out with him. Reminds me a lot of LaDainian Tomlinson's rookie year when his yards per attempt were down a little at 3.6 because defense is keyed on him. Harris was at 3.9 last year. I think that goes up because I think the offense in general will be better. And I think he's going to find the end zone more. He had 7 touchdowns rushing, 3 touchdowns receiving last year. I feel like 10 touchdowns seems like a starting point this year. I really buy the Steelers offense being better with new quarterbacks, and I'm buying Najee Harris as a result. He's my RB2. Next, I'm going to go to a receiver. I'm going to go Terry McLaurin, ADP 41.5. He's going as the wide receiver 20, which is a little bit of an uptick based on where he finished last year as the wide receiver 25. But Terry McLaurin just got paid. And I know this sounds crazy, but Carson Wentz is the best quarterback he's ever played with. And I know that's not a compliment to Carson Wentz at all. But I do think that the quarterback upgrade for Terry McLaurin is going to be a big boon to his fantasy value. All respect to Taylor Heinicke, but he was not the Ryan Fitzpatrick level quarterback we were expecting last year when we all took Terry McLaurin and expected that kind of a breakout. This year, I think Carson Wentz is going to be able to take full advantage of him. Like I said, they just paid him. They like this guy. This is their number one guy. They view it that way. He likes being there. And Wentz will feed the guy, right? Michael Pittman last year, 16th in the league in targets. And that was in a run-based offense. He had 129 targets in a run-based offense, 60 more than the number 2 on the team, 69 for Zach Pascal last year in Indianapolis. I think that Terry McLaurin at least will get 130 targets this season. And I think he's going to be an absolute steal at ADP 41.5, putting up borderline wide receiver 1 numbers. The addition of Speedy Jahan Dotson in the first round should take pressure off McLaurin. I'd much rather gamble on him in the 4th round than take Hollywood Brown, Cortland Sutton, Jalen Waddle in the 3rd round. All those guys have questions about whether or not they're going to lead their own team in targets, whether or not they're going to be super, super productive this year. I have no qualms with Terry McLaurin around later at ADP 41.5. Another receiver, and if you've listened to the Most Accurate podcast, you've heard me talk this guy up a little bit. Christian Kirk, ADP of 88.8. You can get him in the 8th round. He's going as the wide receiver 44. Last year, he was the wide receiver 26. So even if he does just what he did last year, which was an up and down season with Arizona, he's still a screaming steal in the 8th round, going as the wide receiver 44. He's going behind rookies like Treylon Burks, Drake London, after guys like Russell Gage, DeAndre Hopkins, who suspended 6 games and had just 2.4 more half PPR fantasy points per game last year than Kirk did on the same team. So you look at him, and of those receivers in that range, he's the most likely to get triple-digit targets. This team, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're going to throw the ball a lot. They might stink. The coaching staff might suck. It's still going to be a massive improvement over last year behind whatever was going on with Urban Meyer. I think that Christian Kirk there on an emerging offense with an emerging quarterback, I think he's going to get triple-digit targets, and I think that he's one of the few receivers going in the 8th round that you could foreseeably see wide receiver 1 numbers on. I'm not projecting him to land as a wide receiver 12 or top 12 receiver at the end of the year, but easily top wide receiver 24, which phenomenal value in the 8th round. So he's talented, just entering his age 26 season. He got paid to be used. He got paid a lot of money, and I'm definitely going to have him in most leagues based on what his value is, especially in best ball, because he's prone to those big boom weeks, always has been throughout his career. I'm going to go to quarterback, and all the things I just said about Christian Kirk, they apply to Trevor Lawrence as well. ADP of 140.4. He's going to the QB 18. He's going in the 12th round. He was the QB 24 last season, so it wasn't good. A lot of that was the interceptions, and then TJ Hernandez recently pointed out in his outlier touchdown seasons article that he's a player who should throw more touchdowns this year. He had a ridiculously low number of touchdowns compared to his attempts and compared to the amount of touchdowns he should have gotten based on the plays. So like I said with Kirk, it's the new coaching staff could be bad and still be a massive improvement. It should be an emerging offense. He's got new weapons like Christian Kirk to play with. Travis Etienne is back. And those 17 interceptions last year, you know, elite quarterbacks figured that stuff out. Peyton Manning had 28 his rookie year. Elway had 14 in his first 10 starts. Those are gunslingers, guys with big arms, like to throw the ball, like to take risks. Lawrence is always going to be that because he's got the kind of head on his shoulders that he believes he can win on every throw, and that's fine. I think the touchdowns are going to go up. The interceptions won't be quite so prominent, and he's going to rebound heavily and just absolutely crush his ADP at QB 18 in the 12th round. I'm going to go back to running back here. Devin Singletary, ADP 103.3. He's going as the RB 34. He was the RB 24 last year, and that's a lot of the season he was kind of down, right? End of the year was when he hit his massive hot streak. Only Rashad Penny scored more fantasy points at the running back position after week 13 than Devin Singletary did. A lot of that was the insane scoring stretch. He had 6 of his 8 touchdowns coming in the last 4 games. But I think that's going to continue. I don't know if it's going to be quite at that clip, but I think he's still going to be a prominent red zone option for the Bills. Josh Allen might run a little bit less. We saw them trying to use him a little bit less in the red zone last year. I think Singletary should continue to get that short yardage work. People say, what about James Cook? What about James Cook? And yes, James Cook is there now, but Singletary only caught 14 passes during that hot streak anyway. And I think that Cook is there to catch balls, which means I don't think Singletary is going to lose the work he was already getting. I think instead we're just going to see the prominent between the tackles running by Singletary, a few catches and a lot of touchdowns. So Singletary red zone option. He's going again, 103.3 is his ADP. In that range, he's the only one I think that has a shot at double-digit touchdowns. And I think being in a contract year, he's being drafted after guys like Melvin Gordon, Cordero Patterson, Kareem Hunt. Those are all guys that have the same workload issues, right? This isn't a league where we have 20 carries a game for teams anymore. So sure, he's going to slip because he's not catching passes. But I think that the fact that he has a defined role and the fact that the scoring is going to be there is making him tremendously undervalued. So I'm going to have a lot of Devin Singletary based on where he's going in drafts. Finally, I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of late round tight ends that I really like, but I want to highlight Brevin Jordan specifically, ADP of 209.1. Basically, he's available in the last round. He's free. If I'm platooning the position, which is something I'm doing a lot and taking 3 targets, 3 tight ends out there to try to group them together and hope someone hits, Brevin Jordan is almost always a part of that. It's also a really cheap stack with Davis Mills, who should be the starting quarterback, at least for one full season. Brevin Jordan, he's available late. He played in only 8 games last year, but he scored 3 touchdowns in that stretch. 3 touchdowns in 8 games, not too bad for a rookie tight end. Rookie tight ends usually don't produce, usually take a little while. But last year, coming out into the draft, he was projected as a strong pass catching option at the position. He was projected to be a day 2 pick. He lasted a little while longer in the draft than I think people expected. But profiles as that uber athletic, super excellent pass catching threat. Houston doesn't have a lot of those guys. John Mechie, their second rounder receiver, is hurt. He may not start the season. Brandon Cooks is there. But outside of that, you're really looking for somebody to step up, especially in the red zone. Brevin Jordan could be that guy on an offense that could be a little better. So he's going to have a whole off season to work with Davis Mills, run with the starters. If you're platooning tight ends, I think he's a great tight end 3 target who has a great shot at popping. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Hear us on the most accurate podcast every week, talking about the fantasy football information that matters to you. Have a good day.